wanted to tell you a little story about really my life and the beginning of my design career. And it is called The Dead Man's Suit, and this really happened in my life, my first year of college. And my father was a very conservative lawyer, a private investigator. His clients were like the Crips and major drug dealers. And I wanted to be an artist, and which doesn't really go along with my family, but that's my dream. And so they're worried about my career and what I was picking out. And it turns out one of our family friends had a job at an advertising agency, and he knew the creative director for this major advertising agency. And so they were going to hook me up with a summer internship. I was really excited about it. I thought, well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe I can get some money and get off my skateboard. My father said, "What are you going to wear to the interview?" And I thought, well, it's an internship. I'm going to wear blue jeans, and I had a work shirt, and that'd do it. And he said, are you going to cut your hair? And I said, no, I wasn't planning on it. He said, okay. And this is the first time my father really tried to connect as a father and son thing. And he said, no, let's sit down and have a conversation. So, all right, yeah. So he said, son, advertising is a business. And in business, you have to act the part, and you have to look the part. I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. He's going to give me this stuff that I'm going to be able to travel the rest of my life with, Great knowledge handed down from the great one. So he says, look, you gotta cut your hair, and you're going to have a suit. Do you have a suit? And no, I don't have a suit. I mean, I live at the beach. I don't have a suit, right? And I was thinking, well, maybe he's going to offer up that he's going to buy me a suit, but that wasn't the case. And he said, well, do you have any money? And I said, no, I'm a student. I'm broke. I spent all my money on art supplies. So he goes, well, a really good friend of mine died 2 weeks ago, and he's about your size. And he's got amazing suits. He was a real successful Beverly Hills lawyer. And if you want me to, I can call his widow. And it sounded like it was a good idea at the time, because I didn't have a suit, and I didn't know how I was going to get one. So he said, I said, yeah, okay, all right. It's a little weird, but yeah. So he calls this widow in Beverly Hills and said, my son has this job interview, and he's about the same size as your husband, and I've always liked Al's suits, and what are you going to do with Al's clothes? And she said, well, we're going to give them to the Goodwill. And he said, well, would you mind if my son went over and looked through some of the suits? And she said, no problem. So I drove my little car up into this beautiful estate in Beverly Hills. And I knocked on the door, and I met this widow, and she was still mourning over the loss of this amazing guy who just made a fortune in law. And she said, come on in, I said, oh, great. And I realized that Al was kind of an older guy, and I was the same size as him, and I was going to fit into an old man's clothes. But we went into this big master bedroom, and then we walked into this incredible closet that he had, this walk-in closet lined with suits and shirts and everything else. And she said, this was Al's favorite suit. Try it on. And I put it on, and it fit perfectly. And it was like a 78-year-old man, and I was like a 19-year-old kid. And she said, oh, you look great. Take a look at yourself. And I looked at myself, and I thought, God, I look great. I look like I'm a lawyer. It's good. I'm going to get the job, So she said, do you have any shirts? And I said, no. And she said, well, would you like a shirt? And I said, oh, yeah. I'll take the shirt. And then she said, do you need a belt or anything? I said, well, I'll take it, And then she gave me a handkerchief to put in my, And they're all really beautiful things. They're like Sulka, and the suits were handmade and hand-stitched, and They're just gorgeous material. And then she said, what size shoe are you? And I said, 10 and a half. And she said, well, Al was 10 and a half. And she said, these are alligator shoes. These were handmade. And I said, great, I'll try them on. And they look great. So I walked out with everything except his underwear. And she said, you look great, you know, you're marvelous, you know, and she gave me a hug, and I went off with this dead man's clothes. And so I didn't know anything about materials back then, but it was summer, and it was really hot in LA, and my car didn't have air conditioning, and I went to this interview and realized that I didn't have enough money to park. So I was wearing this wool suit with a power tie and my alligator shoes, and I realized I had to park about 6 or 7 blocks away from where I was supposed to go. And I'm sweating like a pig. But I looked great. So, and I got in the elevator, this beautiful, you know, high rise, and I looked around at all the people that were in the elevator, and I looked better than they did. And I thought, I am going to kill this job. I've got it. Because my dad said that, you know, that's what you had to do. And I meet the creative director, and he's about 6'5", and he's wearing a black turtleneck at that time, and that was a really big deal. And he had black jeans and cowboy boots, and 2 huge silver earrings and a shaved head. And he said, hi, how are you? And I said, yeah, great. And he said, are you John the artist? And I said, yeah. And I'm sweating. I'm nervous, but I'm really sweating because of this wool suit. And he said, are you comfortable? I said, yeah. He said, okay, let's go into my office. And so we go in, and I have my little portfolio. He said, are you okay? And I must have just been beet red. And I think sweat was coming down. And I said, yeah, I'm okay. And he said, you're really comfortable? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you always wear a suit? And I said, no. This is a dead man's suit. And he said, what? And I said, well, this is Al's suit. Al died 2 weeks ago. And I told him the story, and I said, these shoes are handmade alligator shoes. And look, this is Al's shirt, you know, and here it is. And here's the cuff links with the scales of justice that Al wore. And this was Al's favorite suit. And this was his closing suit, and it was his good luck suit. And my dad told me that, you know, this is advertising, it's business, and if you want to get the job, you got to act the part. And he looked at me, and he goes, come on, we're going to go back and meet the guys. So we went back to meet the guys, and they all had ponytails and T-shirts, and there's this loud music going on. And he said, hey, you guys, this is John. This is our new artist. Tell him about the suit, John. So I learned something really valuable with that, and I carried it along through my whole career. And it's a short career, but it's getting shorter. Number one, that was the last time I listened to my dad. That was it. So I don't listen to authority at all, especially lawyers. I don't trust them. And never wear another man's clothes, especially if they're dead man's. And if you do that, you can be successful. I wanted to be a graphic designer. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be all these things. And I ended up getting this job eventually. It was designing movie posters. And we only did little indie movie posters, and we mostly did foreign films and things like that. And I got to do this thing for Reservoir Dogs, and I did it on cardboard. And it was sort of like a lot of fun, and it was a cross between my art and design, and I was making money. I had a friend who had a design agency that I wanted to work with, and he never hired me. But one day he called and he said, I've got the perfect job for you. Come on down and take a look at this script, and then tell me if you could do it. And I needed the money, so I went down to see him. And he hands me the script, and as I'm reading it, I realize it's about a psycho killer. Does anyone know the movie Seven? Yeah, Seven. So Seven is probably the most grotesque, or at the time, it was the most grotesque film you could ever imagine. And it was the happiest time in my life because I just had this beautiful baby girl, and it was Christmas time. And so I needed the money, so I was going to whore myself out for doing this thing. And as I was reading the script, I think, why did he think this was the perfect job for me? And it was to design these books that this mass murder guy did. And it was for David Fincher. And every time I showed him something, he would say, no, this doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel perfect yet. And they already went through 6 or 7 designers, and they all did these art projects. And then I realized he really wants me to go there. Well, to go there, you have to become this mass murderer in your head. And I have this beautiful girl in my arms, and it's Christmas time, and that's my birthday. But I went there, and so I just did all these gross things, and I wrote all this amazing stuff out of medical journals, and it was kind of an interesting art project. But as you do it, you become that character, and it took me a couple of years to get out of it. And these are great, great thoughts of 7. Even though I'm a calligrapher, this was my psycho killer handwriting. And then I got this call from Disney, and I was a pretty good psycho killer, but I got this call, and I had a girl, and I had all these responsibilities, and I wanted to be this serious designer, but Disney called, and they said, you know, we want you to work on some projects for us. Would you be interested? And I thought, oh, you know, Disney, I'll make some money and whatever. And everything that I pitched out to Disney, they bought it. So I was like, this is really weird. You can say, I want to do floating dogs, and then they really build them, and then they make them float. And they're big, and you can take them over Sunset Boulevard. So I thought, wow, this is really kind of weird, you know, to go from a dead man's suit to floating dogs. And you could say, I want to wrap a bus. At this time, it's pretty commonplace now. You see it in advertising. But at the time this was done, it was like just happening. The technology was coming on where you could put stickers on, low-tack stickers on buses and things like that. Then you'd get these assignments like Armageddon, and you go, well, that's the end of the world. I'm not saying that, you know, this is high design. This is pretty low-brow design, you know. Yeah, it's Armageddon. There's the Earth. Put the Earth and put a big red ring around it, and there's your poster. I had this idea of doing a building because of the technology. Now you could print really big-scale stuff. So this looks pretty horrific now because this is kind of real. But back then, this was kind of pop art in my eye. I wanted to create an illusion, and I wanted to do this building. Everyone said, yes, let's do it. That sounds great. And we put it on the 405, and I thought, this is so great. My career is going like this. Everyone thinks I'm a genius. I'm going to do this great stuff, and I can't wait till my friends see this thing and call me and say, hey, I saw your big hole in the wall. That's pretty cool. So we did it, and the outcome was this. It made the news. It stopped traffic for 5.5 hours in LA on the 405. No one ever saw anything like this. And I thought that was a good thing. I mean, that's good marketing, right? Get everyone to stop. It makes the news. Yeah. The next morning, we got called into the chairman's office, my boss and I, and he's like, God, I can't believe they made the news and everything. That's really cool, man. Great idea. The chairman didn't think so. He said, you know, we're going to be fined. We've got all these complaints. You know, we're Disney. Everyone hates us right now. They're complaining about this thing in 5.5 hours, and they're, you know, we can't get it down fast enough, and so the hole's halfway there, and it's still stopping traffic. And we went down the elevator after that, and I thought I was going to lose my job. And so did my boss. Around 4 o'clock, we got called back into the chairman's office, and I thought, this is it. This is how they fire at Disney. So he said, well, the good news is that the city wants to fine us $1,500. And he goes, this thing is really getting a lot of attention. We got to take it off the building by the 405, but where else can we put this idea? And so we put it in Vegas, and it did the same thing there. And I kept my job. You don't know what's going to be thrown at you. You don't know whether it's going to be a comedy or it's going to be, you know, a pirate movie or whatever. But they threw Pearl Harbor, and this is what I did for Pearl Harbor with my team. And, you know, I art direct photographs and things like this, and this is one of those happy accidents that the sun was so bright that she actually shielded her eyes like that, and I thought that'd make a great outdoor campaign. So then we did this WPA, a kind of war vintage graphics That was kind of fun. This is a Spike Lee film, so I got to be a mass murderer again, influenced by Andy Warhol stuff. An homage to the Beatles. This was my version of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I steal from everything. And then one of the other things that's nice about Disney is that you have these budgets. And when I started working there, I thought, I'm going to work with every one of my heroes. And one of my heroes was Richard Avedon. And so I got to work with Richard on this for the Wes Anderson film, The Royal Tenenbaums. And that's what the poster becomes, kind of my homage to Joseph Cornell, the artist. You think about how to market a film, and sometimes you're given a star, and you need to open it to a certain number. And the number was really low on this film, and I thought, well, I'll just show Steve Carell's face. And then I put it on pancakes. Pirates of the Caribbean came along. It was based on the ride kind of a thing, and it was a movie. So I wanted to do this logo here. At the time, this symbol with a skull and some kind of crossbones or swords or anything, this said poison. And so I fought to have this logo saved, and it was about 3 or 4 months of going around and bringing it back and going, this is, I think, is the right one. They're going, no, we said no. But anyhow, this is what we ended up with, thank God. This is the photography back then when Johnny Depp was just Johnny Depp and he wasn't this superstar. I liked Caravaggio, so I thought, well, let's make it look like Caravaggio, and so we painted it that way. And I thought that was going to be it. But they decided to make another one because it made a lot of money. It's like, what do? You already blew your wad on that first one. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll make it green instead of brown, and I'll hang something off the thing, and I'll change the crossbones to be something from the movie. And they bought it again, so it got me off the hook. And then we didn't get another chance to do another photo shoot because they were making 2 and 3 together. And so I used some of the old photography and just changed things around the color. Basically did the same poster. I try to end the paint as fast as I can. It's not genius stuff, but end the paint. And then they decided to do it, the third one, and it's like, what do you do? And I go, well, this is going to be the last one, so I'll have them come out of smoke, you know, and do a gray. And that's what we did on this one. This was designed by Lee Clow, who was brought in by Steve Jobs to help market the campaign. And this was an in-theater display that I designed. It came in that box, and it was 8 feet tall. And this is how the campaign looked in the real world. So this is the first stage. Big scale, you know, nothing small. And then this is Tron. And this was all about light to me. The vehicles are all light. So these were some of the things that we designed for Tron. And then we wrapped the Tron rail at Disney World. Long verticals and horizontals. This was an in-theater display. It actually lit up. And then I came up with this idea of taking the same manufacturer that did the suits in that movie and having them apply it to a wall. And so it lit up at night. It's kind of a new technology. The ring actually lit up on that billboard. And then they had this beautiful film called Brave. And it's absolutely amazing. It looks, the cinematography is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And it's a Pixar film, but it's not a comedy. So we made it like a painting, like great cinematography with mystery, right? That's a genius, right? You show the back and then you show the front. And there's another Pirates, and this is a shoot. And I want to tell you the nightmare that happened. So he came late, and the light was going down. He was supposed to be 3 hours earlier. And that was the one shot that I got. And then the light's really bad, flat, and getting darker and darker. And that was the one shot. And that's what it became. And this is the end. Thank you.